is one required to judge and assess another person's actions favorably under all circumstances?
In the Mishnah, in Masechet Avot, in the first chapter, we find the following well-known statement by Yoshua ben Parahya. Yoshua ben Parahya stated, Aselach Rav, one should make an effort to find a spiritual mentor and teacher, someone to teach one Torah, someone that one can turn to with all manner of questions as regarding Torah and how to live one's life according to the Torah. Uknelach haver, and one should also make the effort to foster relationships, positive, meaningful relationships with people who are on that same Torah wavelength, who will be able to assist you and be your partner and a confidant, someone that you can trust in and discuss matters with at all times. That is also an important piece of advice for every person, to have such a friend or a number of such people. And the third thing that Yoshua ben Parahya states is, and judge all people, literally, judge all people favorably. Some people take that last teaching, to judge all people favorably, in the most literal and even extreme sense. That is to say, that no matter what the indications may be as to that person's background, state of mind, intentions, etc., one should always take the most positive and optimistic point of view regarding that person's actions and also their intentions. However, if we think about this for a moment, we will very quickly realize that this is an unreasonable and even naive approach to life and to making decisions based on what we see or what we would like to see, what we would like to believe to be true. And of course, there can be very often very serious ramifications to those decisions that we make, those assessments that we choose to adopt. And therefore it is important to understand the words of Yoshua ben Parahya correctly. Rambam, in his commentary on the Mishnah, here in Masechet Avot, he writes as follows, In Yano, the meaning of this statement of judging people favorably is as follows, She'im haya adam bilti yadua etzlecha. If we are speaking of a person whom you do not know, she'enecha yodea im hu tzadik or rasha, you do not know if this person is a righteous person or the opposite of a righteous person, a person who allows himself to do things because he wants to do them, because they are enjoyable or because they are to his benefit, whether or not they are correct and true or moral. That is the definition of a rasha. With regards to such a person that you do not know well, and you see this person either taking a certain action or making a certain statement, and it is possible to interpret that action or that statement of that person whom you do not know. You do not know this person very well at all, so you do not have any basis on which to assume this person to be one or the other, to be righteous or the opposite of righteous. And you hear this person say something, or you see this person do something, and it is possible to interpret it in one fashion, in a positive light. But on the other hand, if you choose to look at it differently, which is also a perfectly reasonable interpretation of what you saw or what you heard, then this action or this statement would be far from good. It would be, in fact, negative. It would be perhaps even evil. Then, don otho letov wa'al tachshov bora. In that situation, again, a person whom you do not really know, and the action or the statement in question allows of both a more positive and a more negative interpretation, then you should opt for the positive interpretation. And you should assume, therefore, that this person's intention was positive, or this action was intended at least. Whether or not it worked out that way is another question. But that the intention and the action was directed to a good purpose. Rambam continues, however, and says, Aval, however, im haya adam yadu'a shel tzaddik. If, however, we are speaking of a person that you know to be righteous, he is well known to you, you are familiar with his actions, his character, his statements over a long period of time, and therefore you have every reason to believe this person to be a tzaddik, to be a righteous, God-fearing person who chooses and opts to do the right thing. And he is well known for this. And you see this person do a certain action or make a certain statement, which normally, when looked at from all reasonable perspectives and angles, would seem to be a negative or something, a negative action or statement, or something which is forbidden. And it is only possible to judge that action, to assess that statement as being good and positive and proper. It is only possible to do so by going out on a limb, by accepting a very unlikely scenario or very far-fetched interpretation. Nevertheless, you are required to interpret it in that positive light, even though it is, on the face of it, another person perhaps who would not know this person to be a righteous person would perhaps find that explanation or that interpretation very far-fetched. Nevertheless, because you know him to be so, you must interpret it in that light. Because it is possible, it may seem far-fetched to many, but you, knowing this person to be righteous, you must adopt that positive interpretation, seeing that there is such a possibility. It is nevertheless reasonable to view it in that way. It's not totally impossible. And you may not suspect him of doing evil or thinking evil. And it is exactly in this context, with regards to such a person and such a case, that Hazal say elsewhere, in the Gemara Masechet Shabbat, that he who thinks evil of kesherim, of people who are known to be kesherim, people who are known to be righteous, upright, people who do the right thing and are known for doing the right thing, and therefore you have every reason to assume that this person, in this case too, intended to do the right thing and has a positive purpose in mind. A person who thinks evil, who suspects such a person of doing something wrong or incorrect, lokeh begufo, he will be punished. And he will suffer physical punishment or suffering. That is the statement of the Chachamim in the Talmud Masechet Shabbat. And that, says Rambam, is the operative principle when dealing with a person whom you know to be righteous, to be upright, to follow the path of the Torah, to be just and moral and sensitive to right and wrong, good and evil. Rambam continues, however, and says, if this person is well known to you and to others as being an evil person, a person who has demonstrated on many occasions that he does whatever he pleases, whatever he chooses, because it is convenient, because it is to his benefit, expedient, without real care for what is right and what is wrong. And we certainly do not know him to be someone who always follows the path of the Torah. and he's known to be such a person. And we see such a person taking an action or making a statement that, on the face of it, reasonably, must be considered to be good and positive. But it is possible, although perhaps far-fetched, but it is possible also to interpret that apparently good, positive, well-intentioned action to be something else, to actually be hiding some evil intention or purpose. One must be very circumspect, and one must be very careful. One should not assume that this person intended to do something right and proper, because we know, we have a hazakah, we have based on experience, long experience with this person, we know that this person is generally not such a person. And this is clear to us, this is known to us, not by hearsay, but by well-known and established facts. Then, even if the action seems in this particular case to be positive and good, we are not allowed to make that assumption, because the evil and the wicked are frequently very talented and gifted at showing themselves to be something that they are not, to portraying themselves in a positive light, when in fact they are trying to do something quite different. And therefore Rambam says one has to be very careful and be suspicious of such a person, and one should not assume that, well, normally yes, he does the wrong thing, and we often have seen him to be an immoral and even wicked person, but in this case it seems that he really was doing a good deed. Even that should not be your initial assumption. And therefore you should not make such assumptions, as the pasuk says in the book of Mishleh, that one should always assume that when dealing with an evil person, that his intentions and his actions are evil. Kisheva to'avoth bilibo, because you should know and you must assume that his heart, his intentions, his thoughts are directed to the evil and not to the good. So if we sum up these two initial points that Rambam makes, in the case of a person that we know to be a righteous, good, proper person who follows the path of the Torah, then we must go out of our way, even to the point of making assumptions that normally would be considered far-fetched, in order to interpret that person's actions or statements in a positive light. We are required to do so, and that is not in fact what this Mishnah is speaking of. Here it is a positive requirement that we make such assumptions in the case that this person is known to us as a righteous person. And the opposite is also true, says Rambam. If you know the person to be evil, if you are fully acquainted with this person's actions and his way of looking at things and the way he conducts himself in the world, then you must not make any positive assumptions about his actions, even when it seems that he is doing something correct and proper. And in order to drive home this point, this last point, that a person known to be an evil person, whose actions have proved time again that he is not righteous at all, with regards to such a person, one must assume, unfortunately, it is unfortunate, but it is also realistic and therefore necessary, in order that we not make mistakes, in order that we not foolishly and naively assume that a person's intentions are good when in fact they are almost certainly evil, in order that we not inadvertently assist the evil in achieving their aims in this world, which inevitably means that the righteous will suffer at their hands. Good people or innocent people will suffer if we allow the evil to get away and with their plans to get away with what they wish to do. If we are willing to be naive, or if we convince ourselves that we must be naive and must, as it were, forget all that we know about this person, that is entirely not the purpose of this teaching of Yoshua ben Parahya, says Rambam. And Rambam quotes, to drive this point home, quotes the pasuk from Sefer Mishlei, Perikaf Well, pasuk Kafeh 26-25. Ki yehanen kolo, even if this person speaks very finely and seems to be saying wonderful things, al ta'amen bo, do not trust him. Ki sheva to'evoth belibo, because it is almost certainly the case that he is intending to fool you, to deceive you, and in fact his intentions are anything but pure. What therefore was Yoshua ben Parahya in this Mishnah coming to teach us? Regarding this, Rambam says, Im haya bilti yodua, if this person is unknown to us, we do not know him to be a righteous person based on our experience of him in the past, nor do we know him to be an evil person, a person who follows his inclinations and his appetites, no matter where they lead. We do not know this person at all. He is unknown and is a clean slate as far as we are concerned. And we see this person doing a certain action or making a certain statement, which can be interpreted reasonably either one way or the other. It can be seen in a positive light. One can propose a positive interpretation, a well-intentioned interpretation, or one can also view it in a negative light and say it's also possible that he meant to do or to say otherwise. In that situation, says Rambam, Hova b'derech hasiduth, the teaching of Yoshua ben Parahya is an act of hasiduth. It is a teaching which says, in this case, you must opt, even though there are two options. There are two possibilities, both of which are very reasonable and feasible. Nevertheless, you must, if you wish to be a Hasid is someone who does not only do that which is absolutely required of him, but wishes to go beyond that, wishes to act lifnim mishurat hadin, to act beyond the call of duty. As a Hasid, in that case, you should and you must act laduno lechav zechut. You must judge him and assess this action or this statement to view it in the most positive light possible, seeing that you do not know anything about this person, seeing that you have no prior experience and facts to go by. Therefore we see, according to Rambam's illuminating explanation, Yoshua ben Parahya was not teaching us that the Torah requires us to be foolish or naive and to risk all sorts of things in order to insist on a positive interpretation to whatever we see or hear, particularly not when we have good reason to assume otherwise. That would be against common sense and against human experience, and the Torah is never the Torah never runs against the grain of common sense or human experience, quite the opposite. Yoshua ben Parahya's statement is a statement of Hasiduth, that is to say, a teaching which directs us in a situation where either interpretation would be legitimate or reasonable, and one could not necessarily fault either interpretation. In that situation, one should opt for the positive and more optimistic interpretation. And hopefully, Be'ezrat Hashem, with the help of Hashem, we will not be led astray, we will not be deceived, and we will not make incorrect assessments, and on that basis we will not make incorrect decisions which would lead possibly to very dire outcomes. Hopefully Hashem will direct us always in the path of both wisdom and justice and reason in order to make the right decisions.
The production of these videos and maintaining this channel demands much time and money. If you enjoyed this video, please show your appreciation and support. To make a donation, please go to www.machonshilo.org and press the PayPal button which appears on the upper right-hand side of the home page. To sponsor a video or purchase Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael, please write us at office@machonshilo.org.